Shout at me again and I'll end you. Those 7 words, spoken by an exhausted waitress to a $3 billion billionaire. Those 7 words should have gotten her fired. It should have ruined her life. Should have destroyed everything she was fighting for. Instead, they saved 300 families from losing everything at Christmas, changed 2 lives forever, and proved that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is speak up when you have everything to lose. This is that story. And I promise you, what happens next will restore your faith in humanity. Stay with me. Welcome to the Quantica channel. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you are watching from. You know, sometimes life puts you in a moment where you have to choose. Do you stay quiet and safe, or do you speak up and risk everything? This is a story about one of those moments. A moment that happened on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon at Betty's Cafe on Maple Street. Picture this. The lunch crowd is buzzing, plates clattering, coffee brewing, people laughing and talking. It's the kind of place where everyone knows your name, where the booths are a little worn but comfortable, like an old pair of jeans. The kind of place that feels like home. Into this warm, busy scene walks Richard Thornton, 42 years old, $3 billion in the bank. And right now, he's angrier than a hornet's nest someone just kicked over. His shoes? Italian leather that probably cost more than most people make in a month. His suit? Custom tailored, perfect, not a wrinkle anywhere. His phone? Pressed against his ear like it's the only thing keeping him alive. And his voice? Oh, his voice is cutting through that cozy diner like a knife through butter. I don't care what they think, he's shouting into that phone. Make it happen or find someone who will. The hostess, sweet old Betty herself, tries to greet him, tries to show him to a table. But Richard, he walks right past her like she's invisible, like she's a ghost he can't even see. Now, let me tell you about Emma Rodriguez, 36 years old. Been working at Betty's Cafe for 8 years now. 8 long years of early mornings and late nights. 8 years of aching feet and tired smiles. She's been pulling double shifts all week because, well, life doesn't give you much choice when you're raising a teenage daughter alone. Her shoes? They've got holes in the soles she's tried to patch with cardboard. Her uniform? Washed so many times the fabric's gone thin and soft. But her heart? Her heart is still strong, even when everything else feels like it's falling apart. Emma's been watching Richard. Since he walked in, she's seen his type before. Wealthy, important, treating people who serve him like they're furniture, like they're not even human beings with feelings and families and dreams of their own. But right now, Emma's helping Mr. Wilson. He's 78 years old, and he lost his wife 3 months ago. Every single day, he comes to Betty's just to have someone to talk to, just to feel less alone. And Emma, she always takes extra time with him, remembers how he likes his coffee, asks about his garden, makes him feel like he matters. That's when Richard snaps his fingers. Actually snaps his fingers at her, like she's a dog he's calling. Hey, I need service here. Now. The words come out sharp and mean, impatient, like his time is worth more than anyone else's. Like Emma should drop everything. Drop elderly Mr. Wilson, who's in the middle of telling her about his late wife's favorite flowers, and come running. Something inside Emma just breaks. It's not a loud break. It's quiet, like ice cracking on a frozen lake. All those double shifts, all those bills piling up at home, all those times she's bitten her tongue and smiled when people treated her like she was nothing. All of it comes rushing up like a wave she can't hold back anymore. She walks over to Richard's table. Her hands are shaking, but she looks him straight in the eye. And in a voice that's quiet but full of every ounce of strength she has left, she says, "Shout at me again and I'll end you." The entire cafe goes silent. And I mean silent. The kind of silence where you can hear your own heartbeat, where time seems to stop completely. Richard Thornton stops mid-sentence, his phone still at his ear, his mouth hanging open slightly. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, talks to him like that. People fear him. People respect him. People do what he says without question. But this tired waitress with holes in her shoes? She's standing there, trembling like a leaf in the wind. But she's not backing down. She's not looking away. Her grandmother raised her better than to let anyone, no matter how much money they have, treat her like dirt. Emma realizes what she just did. The words hang in the air between them like smoke. She needs this job, desperately needs it. Her daughter, Isabella, is starting college next year. There are bills. There's rent. There's groceries. This job is everything. But you know what? In that moment, Emma decides that some things matter more than fear. Dignity matters. Respect matters. Being treated like a human being matters. Richard is staring at her, really looking at her for the first time. And something strange happens. Something he doesn't expect. He sees himself in her eyes. Not who he is now, but who he used to be. He grew up poor. Detroit's toughest neighborhood. His mama worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. She worked herself to the bone, and people treated her exactly like he's been treating Emma. Looking at Emma now, exhausted, brave, refusing to be broken, Richard sees his mama, and for the first time in years, he feels ashamed. The cafe is still silent. Everyone's watching, waiting to see what this powerful man will do to this woman who just threatened him. Will he get her fired? Will he make a scene? Will he destroy her for daring to stand up to him? What happens next will surprise everyone, including Richard himself. Sometimes, the biggest surprises in life come from the smallest moments. This was one of those moments. Richard looks at Emma, really looks at her. Her uniform is wrinkled from hours of work. Her eyes are tired but fierce. Her hands are still shaking, but she hasn't moved, hasn't run away, hasn't apologized. She's just standing there, waiting for whatever comes next. And Richard does something he hasn't done in years. Something that shocks everyone in that cafe, including himself. "I apologize," he says, slowly, quietly, like the words are hard to get out. That was inappropriate. You could hear a pin drop. Betty, watching from behind the counter, nearly drops the coffee pot she's holding. Mr. Wilson's mouth falls open. The construction workers at the corner table stop eating mid-bite. Richard slides into the booth where Emma is pointing. His expensive suit looks completely out of place against the faded red vinyl seats and the scratched-up table. He looks like a diamond sitting in a pile of stones. But somehow, in this moment, he doesn't seem to mind. Emma approaches the table slowly. Her notepad is ready. Her breathing is still unsteady. Her heart is racing like she just ran a marathon. "What can I get you?" she asks, and her voice is still tight with anger and fear and confusion. Richard looks at the laminated menu. Then he looks up at Emma's face, at the lines around her eyes that come from too many worries and not enough sleep, and he asks something he never asks. "What do you recommend?" It's such a simple question, such an ordinary thing to say. But in all her years at Betty's Cafe, in all the thousands of customers she's served, nobody has ever asked Emma her opinion about the food. Nobody has ever treated her like someone whose thoughts might matter. Emma blinks, caught completely off guard. "The meatloaf is good," she says carefully, her voice softening just a little. "Betty's been making it the same way for 20 years. It's real comfort food." Richard nods. Meatloaf then, and coffee black. As Emma walks away to put in his order, Richard finds himself doing something else he never does. He's watching her, really watching her, the way she moves to the cafe like a dancer in a familiar routine. How she stops to check on Mr. Wilson, making sure he's okay. How she refills a construction worker's coffee without him having to ask. How she smiles at a young mother struggling with 2 little kids, and how she slips him some extra crackers without charging for them. Emma isn't just serving food. She's taking care of people. She's making them feel seen, feel valued, feel important. And Richard realizes something that hits him like a punch to the gut. This is what he's forgotten how to do. This is what success took away from him. The ability to see people, to care about them, to remember that behind every transaction is a human being. His phone buzzes. Urgent messages. The merger. The deal that's been consuming his life for months. 3 factories. 300 families. All of it hanging in the balance. The numbers make perfect sense on paper. Close the factories. Cut the costs. Increase the profit margins. make the shareholders happy. It's just business, just smart business. But sitting here in this worn-down cafe, watching Emma slip an extra roll onto an elderly woman's plate when she thinks nobody's looking, those numbers feel different. Those aren't just numbers anymore. They're people, people like Emma, people like his mama was, people working hard, trying to survive, trying to take care of their families. When Emma brings his meal, her hands are steadier now. Some of the anger has drained away, replaced by curiosity. "You're not from around here," she observes, setting down the plate carefully. "How can you tell?" Richard asks. He's genuinely curious. Emma almost smiles. "The way you hold your phone, like it's life or death. Most folks around here know how to put it down long enough to eat." She hesitates, then adds more gently. "Plus, that watch probably costs more than I make in 2 years." Richard looks down at his Rolex. $40,000 on his wrist. A symbol of everything he's achieved, everything he's become. "You're probably right," he admits. He takes a bite of the meatloaf, and it's good, really good, honest food, the kind his mama used to make when she had time. The kind of food that feeds your soul, not just your stomach. Nothing like the fancy restaurants where he usually eats, where the portions are tiny and the prices are ridiculous and everything tastes the same. "It's been a long time since anyone stood up to me like you did," Richard says quietly. Emma's expression softens a little bit more. She can see now that this man, despite all his money and power, is still human, still capable of feeling, still capable of change. "My grandmother always said you can tell a person's character by how they treat people who can't do anything for them." She stops herself, suddenly aware that she's speaking too freely. "I probably shouldn't have said what I did earlier. I need this job." "Why?" Richard asks. Such a simple question. Just one word. But it opens a door Emma didn't mean to open. "My daughter's starting college next year," Emma says, and the words start pouring out before she can stop them. "Isabella. She's brilliant, valedictorian, full scholarship to State University. But there's still costs, you know? Books, housing, food, all the little things that add up." She stops, realizing she's sharing her whole life story with a complete stranger. A stranger who, an hour ago, she threatened. But Richard just nods slowly, understanding, because he remembers. He remembers being that kid who needed help, who needed a chance, who needed someone to believe in him. And suddenly, the weight of those 300 factory workers feels even heavier on his shoulders. His phone rings, the call he's been dreading, the one that will force him to decide. Right now, today, everything is about to change. Life is a funny way of putting you exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there. Richard stares at his phone screen, his assistant's name flashing, his heart sinking, because he knows what this call means. "The board needs your decision in 2 hours, his assistant says, her voice crackling through the speaker. Professional, urgent, cold. "Sign the merger papers or we lose the deal entirely." They're not waiting any longer. 2 hours, 120 minutes to decide the fate of 300 families. To choose between his company's survival and the livelihoods of people he's never met, people whose names he doesn't know, people whose faces he's never seen. The factories would close by Christmas, just 8 weeks away. 8 weeks until 300 families face the holidays without paychecks, without hope, without knowing how they'll pay for presents or food or rent. Emma notices a change in him immediately. The confident businessman from earlier is gone. In his place sits someone who looks genuinely troubled, genuinely torn. "Bad news?" she asks softly, refilling his coffee without being asked. "Life-changing news," Richard says quietly, "for a lot of people." And then he does something he's never done before. He tells her. This waitress he just met an hour ago. He tells her about the merger, about the impossible choice, about the 300 people whose lives hang in the balance of his decision. "It's just business," he says, but the words taste like ash in his mouth. They sound hollow, empty, wrong. Emma's shift is over. She should go home. She should rest. She should leave this troubled billionaire to his own problems. But instead, She sits down across from him. Because sometimes people need someone to talk to. Sometimes they need someone to remind them who they really are. My ex-husband used to say that. Emma says, stirring sugar into her own coffee. Her movements are tired, slow, like she's carrying the weight of the world. It's just business, Emma. Nothing personal. He said that when he cleaned out our savings account and disappeared with his secretary. She looks up at Richard, and her eyes are kind but firm. Here's the thing about business. It's never just numbers on paper. Those numbers, they're someone's mortgage payment, someone's kid's medicine, someone's hope for tomorrow. Richard has spent years building walls around his heart. Strong walls, high walls, walls that let him make tough decisions without feeling the pain. But Emma's words, they're cutting through those walls like they're made of paper. What would you do, he asks. It's a question he's never posed to anyone outside his executive team. Never asked someone from the real world. Someone who lives with the consequences of decisions like this every single day. Emma doesn't hesitate. I'd remember where I came from. You didn't get that expensive watch by forgetting what it feels like to worry about money. She studies his face, seeing past the perfect haircut and the tailored suit and the confident exterior. You grew up poor, didn't you? Richard nods slowly, surprised that she can see through him so easily. Detroit, worst neighborhood you can imagine. My mama worked 3 jobs just to keep us alive. Then you know, Emma says gently, you know what Christmas looks like when there's no paycheck coming. You know what it feels like to watch your mama cry because she can't afford to buy you new shoes. You know what fear tastes like when the rent is due and the cupboards are empty. The weight of 300 families presses down on Richard's shoulders. Heavy, crushing, real. He thinks about his mama. How she never missed a payment on their tiny apartment. How she sewed patches on his clothes and called them custom designs so he wouldn't feel poor. How she worked until her hands bled and her back ached and her feet couldn't carry her anymore. All for him. All so he could have a better life. Those factory workers? Emma continues, her voice soft but steady. They've been loyal to your company for years. They've shown up every day, done their jobs, supported their families. They've got children they're trying to raise right, just like your mother raised you right. Richard's phone buzzes again. More urgent messages. The board is waiting. The lawyers are waiting. The shareholders are waiting. Everyone wants an answer. Everyone wants him to sign those papers and walk away with millions of dollars and a clear conscience because it's just business. But sitting here in Betty's cafe, looking at Emma's tired face and honest eyes, Richard doesn't feel like it's just business anymore. It feels personal. It feels real. It feels like every decision he's made over the past 10 years is catching up with him all at once. I built this company from nothing, Richard says quietly. I worked 80-hour weeks. I sacrificed everything. My marriage failed. I missed my daughter growing up. I gave up every piece of my soul to make this company successful. And now they're telling me that to keep it alive, I have to destroy 300 other people's lives. Emma reaches across the table. Her hand, rough from years of hard work, covers his. Success doesn't have to mean losing your humanity. My grandmother used to say the richest people aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones who can sleep at night knowing they did right by others. Richard looks down at their hands, his soft and manicured, hers work-worn and strong. 2 different worlds touching for just a moment. And in that moment, something shifts inside him, something fundamental, something that's been buried under years of corporate meetings and profit margins and shareholder expectations. He pulls out his phone. His finger hovers over his assistant's number. Whatever he decides in the next few minutes will define not just his company's future, but who he really is as a human being. Emma watches him, waiting, hoping, praying that this man will remember where he came from, that he'll choose people over profit, that he'll prove her grandmother right. The whole cafe seems to be holding its breath. Have you ever stood at a crossroads where you knew your next step would change everything? Where you could feel the weight of the world balancing on the edge of a single decision? That's where Richard is right now. Phone in hand, heart pounding, future uncertain. He looks at Emma one more time. This woman who had the courage to stand up to him. who reminded him of who he used to be, who treated him like a human being instead of a bank account. And he makes his choice. Richard dials his assistant's number. His hand isn't quite steady, but his voice is, and it gets stronger with every word he speaks. Cancel the merger. 3 words. Just 3 simple words. But they feel like the most important words he's ever spoken in his entire life. Sir. His assistant sounds confused. Shocked. Sir, are you sure? The profit margins, the shareholder value, I'm sure, Richard interrupts. His voice is firm now, confident, clear. Tell the board I'm restructuring instead of selling. Set up meetings with the factory floor supervisors. I want to hear directly from the workers about how we can improve operations. He looks at Emma as he speaks. She's frozen in her seat. Her eyes are wide, disbelieving, hope blooming across her tired face, like sunrise after the longest night. And schedule a company-wide meeting for next week, Richard continues. It's time I remembered what this business was built on. It's time I remembered why I started this company in the first place. When he hangs up, Emma's eyes are filled with tears. Real tears. The kind that come from deep inside, where you keep all your fears and hopes and prayers. You're really going to save their jobs? She whispers. I'm going to try, Richard corrects gently. I'm going to try to save the company and the jobs. It won't be easy. We'll need to find new ways of doing things. Maybe take smaller profits for a while. Maybe make some sacrifices. But there's got to be a better way than throwing people away like yesterday's garbage. News travels fast in a small cafe. Within minutes, everyone knows. The billionaire at table 6 just saved 3 factories from closing. 300 families will have paychecks for Christmas. 300 families will have hope. And something beautiful happens. The construction worker at the corner table stands up, walks over, and pays for Richard's lunch. My brother works at the plant, he says gruffly, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for giving him a chance. The elderly woman Emma had been helping earlier shuffles over slowly. Her fingers are bent with arthritis, but they're strong when she shakes Richard's hand. My grandson works there too, she says, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. He's got 2 little ones. You just save his family. God bless you. One by one, people come over. They shake his hand. They thank him. They tell him stories about their loved ones who work at those factories, about the weddings that are still happening now, about the college funds that won't be emptied, about the Christmas presents that will be under the tree after all. Richard finds himself surrounded by ordinary people whose lives he just changed. These aren't corporate executives or investors seeking profits. They're real people, good people, people who work hard and love their families and just want a fair chance at life. Betty herself, who owns a cafe, comes over with tears in her eyes. She's 72 years old and has been running this place for 45 years. She's seen everything. But this is something special. Emma never told us she was friends with anyone so important. Betty says with a knowing smile. We just met today, Richard admits. But she taught me something I've forgotten. What's that, honey? Betty asks. Richard looks at Emma, who's wiping her eyes with a napkin. That being successful and being human aren't mutually exclusive. That you can make money and still have a soul. That the numbers on a balance sheet represent real people with real dreams and real families. Emma stands up, suddenly shy. All these people are looking at her like she's some kind of hero, but she doesn't feel like a hero. She just feels like a tired waitress who spoke her mind when she should have kept quiet. I should get home, she says softly. Isabella will be wondering where I am. We've got college applications to work on. Wait, Richard says quickly. He pulls out his business card. Plain white, embossed letters. The kind of card that opens doors. My company has an internship program. If your daughter is interested in business or economics or anything really, we'd love to have her. Emma takes the card with trembling fingers, stares at it like it's made of gold. This piece of paper represents opportunity. A chance for Isabella to build a better future. To not have to struggle like her mama has struggled. Why? Emma asks, looking up at Richard with confused, grateful eyes. Why would you do this for us? Richard smiles. Really smiles. Not the fake corporate smile he's worn for years, but a real smile that reaches his eyes and makes him look younger. Human, because someone gave me a chance once. And because you reminded me today that kindness matters more than quarterly earnings. As Emma walks out of Betty's Cafe, Richard sits back down in his booth. The meatloaf is cold now, but he doesn't care. His phone is buzzing with angry messages from board members and confused messages from executives and worried messages from lawyers. But for the first time in 10 years, Richard Thornton feels something he thought he'd lost forever. He feels like himself again. He feels like the young man his mama raised. The one who promised her he'd never forget where he came from. The one who swore he'd use his success to help people, not hurt them. And it all started because one brave waitress refused to be treated like she was invisible. You know how some stories end? They don't really end. They just transform into something new, something better, something beautiful. This is one of those stories. 6 months have passed since that Tuesday afternoon at Betty's Cafe. 6 months since Emma stood up to a billionaire and changed both their lives forever. Today, Emma Rodriguez walks through the glass doors of Thornton Enterprises. But she's not delivering food. She's not taking orders. She's wearing a crisp navy blue business suit. Her shoes are new, comfortable, professional. Her hair is styled. Her head is held high. Because Emma is now the director of employee relations at Thornton Enterprises. And she's good at it. Really good at it. You see, after Richard made his decision to save those factories, he realized something. He needed someone who understood people. Someone who knew how to listen. Someone who cared about workers as human beings, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. And he knew exactly who that person was. Emma was scared at first. She'd never worked in an office, never worn a suit, never had an important title. But Richard believed in her. And slowly, carefully, Emma discovered something amazing about herself. She was good at this. All those years of listening to customers at the cafe, all that time spent solving problems and making people feel valued, those weren't just waitressing skills. They were leadership skills. The company's transformation has been remarkable. By actually listening to the workers on the factory floors, they discovered things no expensive consultant had ever found. Inefficiencies that wasted time and money. Better ways to do things. Ideas that increased productivity while actually making the work easier. Profits didn't just stay stable. They grew. 18% increase in the last quarter. And not because they cut jobs or squeeze workers harder, but because people who feel valued work harder. Because loyalty goes both ways. Because when you treat employees like partners instead of tools, they give you their best. Today, Emma walks into the conference room for the quarterly meeting. And sitting at the table, reviewing reports with focused attention, is Isabella, her daughter, 19 years old now. Brilliant, confident, beautiful. Isabella is part of the company's internship program. She's been working directly with Richard on community outreach initiatives. And something unexpected happened. She changed her major from pre-med to business ethics. Because she witnessed firsthand how one person's choice to do the right thing can ripple outward and change hundreds of lives. The quarterly reports are in, Mom, Isabella announces, looking up with bright eyes that remind Emma so much of her own mama's. Profits are up 18%. We've hired back everyone who was laid off last year from the factory closures. And employee satisfaction scores are the highest they've been in company history. Richard enters the conference room, and he looks different too. Less stressed, more human. The hard edges have softened. He still works hard, but he also takes time to walk through the factories, to learn people's names, to ask about their families, to remember that behind every employee ID number is a person with dreams and fears and a life that matters. Morning, Emma. Morning, Isabella, he says warmly, setting down his coffee. Not expensive coffee from some fancy place. Regular coffee from Betty's Cafe, which he visits every week. They become friends, Emma and Richard. Real friends, built on that foundation of mutual respect that began when she had the courage to speak truth to power. They go back to Betty's Cafe regularly. Richard has learned the names of all the regulars now. Asks about Mr. Wilson's garden. Remembers that the construction worker's daughter just had a baby. tips generously because he remembers what it's like to work hard for every dollar. You know, Richard says thoughtfully as they review the expansion plans, "My mom would have liked you, Emma." Emma smiles. She's heard stories about his mama over these past 6 months, about the woman who worked 3 jobs and never complained, who taught her son that kindness is strength, not weakness, who believed in him when nobody else did. "She raised a good son," Emma replies gently. "It just took him a while to remember it." Richard laughs. A real laugh. That's the truth. As they work through the meeting, discussing new initiatives and programs, Emma thinks about how much has changed, how standing up for herself that day didn't just save her dignity. It saved 300 jobs. It transformed the company. It gave her daughter opportunities Emma never dreamed possible. But more than that, it proved something Emma's grandmother always told her. That courage doesn't mean not being afraid. It means speaking up even when you're terrified. It means standing firm even when your knees are shaking. It means believing that you deserve respect, no matter how much money you have or don't have. As the sun sets over the city, casting golden light through the conference room windows, Emma looks out toward downtown. Somewhere out there is Betty's Cafe, still serving the best meatloaf in the city, still filled with good people working hard and trying their best. And Emma realizes something beautiful. She didn't leave that world behind. She brought it with her. Every decision she makes as Director of Employee Relations is guided by what she learned serving coffee and meatloaf, by what she learned from listening to people's stories, by what she learned about dignity and respect and treating everyone like they matter, because they do matter. Every single person matters. Richard stands beside her at the window, looking out at the same view. "You changed my life, Emma," he says quietly, "that day at Betty's. You reminded me who I used to be, who I wanted to be." Emma smiles. "And you changed mine. You proved that powerful people can still have good hearts. That success doesn't have to mean losing your soul." Sometimes, the most important business decisions aren't made in boardrooms with expensive lawyers and complicated contracts. Sometimes, they're made in diners by people brave enough to speak truth to power and wise enough to listen when it matters most. Sometimes, one moment of courage can change everything. And this was one of those moments.